So, my last video is a controversial one. The comments are increasing faster than other videos, and a lot of them are kind of getting at me, my delivery and my opinions of a new FPS that launched at the end of last year called Military Conflict Vietnam. In that video, quick summary, I didn't like the game at all. It felt very dated with issues regarding map design, UI, gunplay, and just an overall lack of a player base a month after launch. Now, I won't lie, I ripped it apart, and in turn, their Discord shared the video and discussed it, and we saw a group of fans and moderators start going through and responding to pretty much every comment that agreed with my sentiment. Now, it wasn't an organized brigade, but it very clearly was a group of Discord mods and fans coming to the defense of an indie team. I've seen it time and time again. I jumped into their Discord and I saw that it was definitely moderators and just community members coming at you guys. An indie team, I might add, that has been developing this game for the last 7 years, and I learned this after the fact. I took some time after yesterday's video upload to listen to the Discord, their concerns with my messaging and my delivery, the statements that I had made, and I just had an open mind to hearing out both the community as well as a couple developers in that Discord, and it was overall, I would say, a pretty decent conversation. Let's start with some context. I've been on YouTube for 10 years. 8 of those years has been spent covering early access indie games, mainly in the multiplayer FPS space. I've seen tons and tons of games come and go, and in watching and covering games, I've learned a lot about mistakes that indie devs make, from the lack of innovation to lack of marketing to lack of creative ideas to the overabundance of marketplace assets. I know, for the most part, when a game launches, how well it's going to do. I think we need to start talking about the reality of the situation. The truth is, 90% of indie games fail financially. A study from GameDeveloper.com points to the fact that only 10% of Steam developers have made more than $100,000 in gross revenue. In a 2014 article from the same website, they claimed that at the time, 57% of developers on Steam made under $500 in game sales. It is incredibly difficult to grab market share in the indie space, even more so when your entire game relies on players being there in the servers. And you can make an argument for bots filling lobbies. Truth is, the vast majority of players do not care for bots, and they take it as a sign that a game is dead. Yeah, it can prolong the lifespan of a title, but from a business perspective, does that matter to you if you aren't bringing new life into the game? It is not sustainable. That's just one of the aspects that went wrong with Military Conflict, in my opinion. The player base is not sustainable. Truth is, most games lose 60 to 80% of their player bases within the first 30 days. If you don't have a successful launch, it can basically kill your project. That time period is, in the majority of cases, the highest player count you will ever receive. And of course, you can point to games like Among Us that launched with middling reviews with not a lot of players, but then spiked to insane levels of viral status during the early days of the pandemic. That is an anomaly, and it's not the standard. If you're banking that things will change in the future, that's not a business plan that I believe should be bought into as a consumer. Here's a truth. Every single game on Steam is competing for your attention. It's tough to compare a small indie team to the behemoths of COD and Apex Legends, or even on the lower end, the games like Hell Let Loose's, the Squads, the Insurgencies. It may not seem like a fair comparison based on the resources and based on the budgets, but in the mind of a consumer, they're deciding whether or not your game can fit within their rotation. And when it comes to games like Military Conflict Vietnam, they have done nothing to entice players to rotate out an Apex Legends or an EFT or whatever the case is, in my opinion. I was ripped apart yesterday as well due to my opinions on the game, and a lot of you didn't think I gave the game a fair shake. So I'll let you be the final judge as to whether or not this game is worth not just your $15, but your time, which in today's day and age when it comes to gaming is the most important thing. Military Conflict Vietnam is a fast-paced first-person shooter set in the heat of the Vietnam War. It's being developed on the Source engine by a team called Dustfade, who I've never heard of. The game features 6 classes: Assault, Medic, Gunner, Sniper, Engineer, as well as Radioman. Across all of these classes are over 100 weapons to choose from. There are 8 official maps with workshop support available right now. One of the maps I was playing on in my video from the other day was apparently a map called DoD Donner, ported over from Day of Defeat, a Source game that was released in 2003. This is, from my understanding, the biggest selling point to the game. The fact that it's built on Source Engine, has Hammer Editor support tied right in, so you can build content from the game and upload it to the workshop. Some players have already begun porting over older Source maps to the game. Military Conflict Vietnam features 6 modes: Capture the Flag, Conquest, Deathmatch, Gun Game Deathmatch, as well as Team Deathmatch, with all of this tied into a functioning server browser. Visually, I think the game looks very dated. I understand that there's an audience for older looking games. Hell, visuals to me don't really mean much when I'm streaming games like Stock or Anomaly or playing CSGO. I've never once been hard on a game for visuals unless they're just like really bad to the point where it's almost like you had to work to make it that bad. But in my opinion, compared to a game like Insurgency Source, which was a mod also on the Source engine, I think the visuals in this game don't do enough for me to make me like jump out of my seat and want to talk about it. Audio is okay. I can at least hear where the enemies are walking and shooting, which is more than I can say for some other games. That being said, there's really not a lot going on in the game. I expect a game this simple would have audio that at least reflects the only 2 things you can do, which is move and shoot. Here's where I'm at. It's clear that this game was built for an audience of players that are wanting to relive the games of old, and I can relate to that so well. I would love if SOCOM came back into my life. You guys know that. However, I'm of the opinion that simply making SOCOM 2 again would be a terrible idea. I used to support the idea of remastering SOCOM 2, just giving us updated visuals and we're good to go. Truth of the matter is that game would not survive today. I don't believe we should try to take 20 to 25-year-old games and simply make them again. It's clear to me that this game will never see a massive audience or even a sizable one, and I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that as somebody who wants indie studios to win. I have covered so many titles that are in the exact same boat as this game. Days of War, Day of Infamy, Battalion 1944. They all want to relive the glory days of these older, fast-paced competitive games, but they never do anything to differentiate itself from the games that came before it. So now what we have is a $15 game here, a $15 game there, a $15 game this year, another $15, and they all end up going the exact same route. It's not necessarily just about the $15. It's about the couple $100 that we've spent over the last 5 years buying the same product over and over and over. And I'm saying that as somebody who wants indie studios to win. We have to do better. Spending 7 years of development to get to this moment, and I had more people trying to chip at my opinion of a game in the comment section than have actually bought and played the game. As much as I respect the notion of defending and supporting indie developers, we have got to start being more realistic about these things. I apologize for the delivery on my last video. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I sound like an asshole. I will be better. Everything that I said in that video and this one is the truth. It might not be something that a community of gamers who are supporting and backing a game want to hear, but it's the truth. And this is coming from a consumer perspective. The fact of the matter is only 93 people have been playing your game all at one time. There's a reason for it, and it's not for the fact that a YouTuber has made a video that hurts sales or hurts perception. The perception isn't even there. There isn't a large market share for a game like this. And the thing is that's okay. And that, I think, is something that I did make a mistake in my video. It's all about developer expectations. For me, if I'm putting a game out there, I want as many people as humanly possible playing it, because I mean, that's why you make a multiplayer shooter, right? If these developers and this team over at Dustfade wanted to put this out for a small community, not worry about bringing in a lot of sales, well, then that's a completely different story. But it's kind of like the same thing as like when people get at me for wanting to make a video for views. Well, of course, I'm a YouTuber. That is literally my job. So for me, looking at a development team that's been working on a game for 7 years, wanting to put it out there, they're making a multiplayer shooter. The logical thing for me is you want to gather as many people as humanly possible to play it. But then when I look at the game, it doesn't reflect that. If you're thinking about putting a game out there in the multiplayer space and you want as many people as possible to play it, I'm just gonna be honest, you don't make this game. And I think that kind of goes back to the question I had at the beginning of my first video. Why? Why does a game like this get made if the developers are expecting to grow a huge player base? And if they're not expecting to grow a huge player base, then the question still remains, why? Why is this game being made? Is it because it's on Source Engine and because it's moddable and that brings the community together? I just don't see that vision. And I think that there's nothing that anybody can do to convince them otherwise, convince me otherwise. It's just a difference of opinion. I hope this video gives you a little bit more clarity into why I view certain games the way that I do. Sometimes people just disagree with my thoughts. Sometimes people just disagree with the delivery. But even through the conversations in Discord, even they admitted that some of the things that I said were accurate as hell, but they had a problem with the delivery. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna save that anger and that assholeness for companies who truly deserve it. The scams, the asset flips, everything else. If you guys think I went a little bit too hard on these devs, I apologize. It's simply because I have seen this same mistake be made time and time and time again throughout my career that it just kind of gets frustrating after a while. I let that frustration get the best of me in my video, but also at the end of that video, I tried to give you guys some games that I was looking forward to. I tried to add a little bit of positivity to it because in reality, this isn't the worst game ever, but it's a game that exists. And I guess if the developers and the community are okay with it, sure. If you guys do want to try this game out, I'll have a link down below. Personally, I think you should avoid it. That is just my opinion. But if what I said in this video has any sort of, positive connection to you, maybe take a look. My name is Big Fry. Shout out to the 304,000 subscribers, and I'll do better on the next one.